Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the YouTube channel of PRATHAM Test Prep. Myself, Juhi Sharma, and here we are with yet another economics video for class 12, right? So in today's topic, we will be actually covering, in today's session, we'll be actually covering aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Okay, so this is one topic which most of the students are scared for, that they don't understand about aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So what I have done is I have basically divided this topic into two sections. Okay, so in this particular session, what I'll do, I'll be covering the basic concepts of it so that you understand the theoretical part, right? And in the next session, which will be on next Saturday at same time 10:30 a.m., we will be covering the graphical representation and how questions are asked from derivations and everything, right? So it's very important for you to understand the basic concepts first. Okay, now we all know what is aggregate demand, we all know what is aggregate supply. ठीक है, वो हमें पता है कि cumulative demand is aggregate demand, cumulative supply is aggregate supply. But is it enough to answer a long question? Because what I remember is particular topic say you get a long answer type question, right? And we don't want to miss on to any mark on in this particular thing, right? So yes, without wasting too much of time, let's quickly get into this, that what is aggregate demand, what is aggregate supply. And yes, before that, if you haven't subscribed to Pratham Test Prep's channel, please do that. Hit that like button if you like this video. Hit that bell icon so that you get notified whenever we come live, whenever we upload a new video, because trust me, we do a lot of things, right? For class 12, let me remind you, we do sessions on every Saturday at 10:30 a.m., right? And for 11th also, because we have got your 11 buddies covered as well. For 11th, we do sessions on every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Okay. So yeah, let's quickly see what is aggregate demand and what is aggregate supply. So as I have already told you that aggregate demand is nothing, it is just the total demand, right? Economy में जितने भी goods and services हैं, याद रखिएगा जितने भी final goods and services हैं, so the aggregate is actually the total demand for all the final goods and services in the economy. Economy में जितने भी final goods and services हैं, उसका जो total demand होता है वो क्या है? That is actually what is aggregate demand, that it is the total demand for the final goods and services in an economy, right? Now, you need to know that इसमें जब हम total demand की बात कर रहे हैं, we are talking about all the three sectors, right? All three sectors, primary, secondary, tertiary, सारे sectors की हम बात कर रहे हैं, right? At a given period of time, और वो given period of time क्या, you can consider it like one financial year, right? So this aggregate demand actually it represents the total planned expenditure on goods and services in economy during a period of time. मतलब एक period of time में, एक financial year में आप बोल सकते हो जितना भी expenditure planned है, right, on final goods and services, उनका जो aggregate demand है, right, that is actually the aggregate demand, उनका जो total demand of all the final goods and services which are produced in an economy by all the three sectors. Now you need to understand one thing, कि अगर जब हम यहाँ पे बात कर रहे हैं about the final goods and services, right, that is the aggregate demand, तो इसमें क्या क्या include होगा? इसमें आपका include होगा जो हम household consumption करते हैं, right? We do private consumption, we do household consumption, that is included. Secondly, we do the investment पर जो हम expenditure करते हैं वो included है. Now government भी कुछ sort of expenditure करती है, that is also included in this aggregate demand. And उसके बाद जो हमारे एक्सपोर्ट्स होते हैं, नेट एक्सपोर्ट्स होते हैं, बेसिकली एक्सपोर्ट्स माइनस इंपोर्ट्स जो हमारे हैं, दैट इज नेट एक्सपोर्ट्स, दिस इज आल्सो इंक्लूडेड इन द एग्रीगेट डिमांड कैटेगरी. सो you need to understand the components of aggregate demand. Now this aggregate demand has four components. Number one, it has the private household consumption expenditure, which is represented by C, right? The second component is the investment expenditure, which is represented by I. The third component is the government expenditure, represented by G. And the fourth component is net exports, which is represented by X minus M, which is actually exports minus imports. मतलब country की जितने total exports हुए हैं उसमें some imports minus कर दे, we get net exports, right? So these are the 4 components of aggregate demand, right? Now in the next slide we'll be covering these 4 components one by one, that what actually is included in all these things. ये basically components हैं क्या? Because what if the question comes on the components, you should be able to answer not in just 30 to 40 words, but a good answer of 80 to 100 words too, right? So when I talk about the components of aggregate demand, I've told you that there are 4 components of aggregate demand. Total आपके 4 components होते हैं, ठीक है? पहला है आपका private consumption expenditure, और it is actually the household consumption expenditure. उसमें क्या है, जितना भी goods and services purchase हुआ है या जितना भी expenditure हुआ है on goods and services by the households, okay, by the consumers, by the households, jitna bhi expenditure hua hai, the total expenditure which is incurred by the household on the purchase of goods and services during an accounting year. तो ये क्या है आपका, ये आपका हो गया private consumption expenditure, right? That it is the total expenditure which is incurred by the households on the purchase of goods and services. जितने भी हम लोग जो भी कुछ consume करते हैं as consumers, उनका सबका total is the private household consumption expenditure. Second comes the investment expenditure. Now what is this investment expenditure? Investment expenditure आपका किसका होगा? ये होगा basically आपका business houses का, ये होगा expenditure आपका firms का, किस पर? On capital goods and assets, right? Capital goods and assets पर जो आपके firms and business houses जो expenditure कर रहे हैं. So the total expenditure which is incurred by all the firms on capital goods and assets considered under what? Those are considered under the investment expenditure. That is actually what investment expenditure is all about, right? Now, one of the major component of aggregate demand is the government expenditure. Government expenditure is what it is actually जो government spend कर रही है on goods and services, on capital, so that welfare of the country is done, right? To satisfy the common man wants, to satisfy the common needs of the country, जो आपकी government expenditure कर रही है, that is what? That is actually the government expenditure. Now government किस पे expenditure कर रही है? तो government आपका expenditure कर रही है on goods and services too, and आपका expenditure हो रहा है on the assets too. कैसे? Services, goods and services कैसे? For example, government is spending on transportation, government is spending on health, government is spending on education. So all these things comes under what? All these things comes under the common needs of economy, right? That is on the consumer services, consumer goods, right? लेकिन government क्या है? Government आपका actually वो expenditure कर रहा है investment पर भी, वो आपके investment पे भी कुछ उनका expenditure हो रहा है. What kind of an expenditure? Like आपका infrastructure development हो रहा है, आपका roads हो रहे हैं, railway lines हो रहे हैं. So ये सारा भी तो government के expenditure में आता है, right? So the government is spending basically on the goods and services too. And secondly, it is spending on the investment too, as in the assets, the capital goods, the capital formation, right? So इन सब पे government का expenditure हो रहा है, right? So this government expenditure is the total expenditure incurred by the government किस पर? On consumer goods and services, जैसे आपका health, education, transportation पे expenditure हो रहा है. Secondly, government is also spending on the assets, on the capital things, right? For example, आपका roads, railway, infrastructure. तो ये जो investment expenditure है government का, these both combines and forms the government expenditure, okay? And the fourth component of aggregate demand is net exports. Net exports कैसे? Net exports are basically X minus M, which is the difference between exports and imports, right? तो X को हम किसे represent करते हैं? X represents हमारा exports and M represents imports, right? So net export क्या होता है? The difference between export minus imports. Country का कोई भी कंट्री अगर आपकी अच्छी सिचुएशन में कब होती है? when वो एक्सपोर्ट ज्यादा करती है, इंपोर्ट कम करती है, राइट? दैट मींस दैट वी से दैट द कंट्री इज इन अ गुड सिचुएशन. सो नेट एक्सपोर्ट जो है, दैट इज आल्सो अ मेजर कंपोनेंट ऑफ एग्रीगेट डिमांड. Okay, so all these are the major components of aggregate demand and their respective explanations, if in case you get to write the explanations of these things too. Okay, now aggregate demand हमने पढ़ा, अब हम पढ़ते हैं aggregate supply. अभी जो एग्रीगेट सप्लाई है ना, इट इज वेरी, यू कैन से कि जब आप एग्रीगेट सप्लाई का डेफिनेशन पढ़ते हो तो आपको ऐसा लगता है कि ओह दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच वाज स्टडीड वे बिफोर, बस थोड़ा सा वर्डिंग्स का चेंज है. ओके, सो व्हाट इज एग्रीगेट सप्लाई? एग्रीगेट सप्लाई इज एक्चुअली जितना भी आपका फाइनल गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज प्रोड्यूस हो रहे हैं इकोनॉमी में, उसका टोटल वैल्यू. Right? What is aggregate supply? It is the total value of all the final goods and services which are available or which are produced in an economy in a given period of time, of course. अब इससे आपको क्या याद आ रहा है? इससे हमें मुझे जो एक चीज याद आ रही है with this definition, that is national income. बिकॉज जो हमने नेशनल इनकम का डेफिनेशन पढ़ा था वो भी तो यही था, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाट एक्चुअली एग्रीगेट सप्लाई इज. सो एग्रीगेट सप्लाई इज आल्सो सेड टू बी नोन एज नेशनल इनकम, बिकॉज अगर आप देखो दोनों का डेफिनेशन इज सेम, राइट? सो व्हाट इज एग्रीगेट सप्लाई? इट इज द वैल्यू ऑफ टोटल फाइनल गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज व्हिच आर अवेलेबल इन एन इकोनॉमी ड्यूरिंग अ गिवन टाइम पीरियड, राइट? और ये कैसे रिप्रेजेंट होता है? इट इज रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय एएस. एग्रीगेट सप्लाई इज एएस. एग्रीगेट डिमांड क्या था? एग्रीगेट डिमांड इज एडी, राइट? एएस एंड एडी. ओके, अब total value of final goods and services produced in an economy in a given year, that means what? Can I say that aggregate supply is equals to national income? Of course, I can say that aggregate supply is equals to national income because aggregate supply and national income by definition is the same, right? So we get that AS is equals to Y, where AS is the aggregate supply and Y is what? Y is the national income, right? So that is what aggregate supply is all about. Now, जैसे हमारे aggregate demand के हमारे components थे, likewise we have the components of aggregate supply too. But अभी aggregate supply क्या है? Aggregate supply is basically the national income, right? तो इसके components क्या क्या होंगे? National income क्या? National income में आपका एक तो consumption आपका आ गया और एक आपका savings आ गया, right? So national income को किससे describe करा? We have denoted it as Y. नेशनल इनकम को हमने y से किया रिप्रेजेंट, राइट? और एग्रीगेट सप्लाई इज as. तो कैन आई से y इज इक्वल्स टू as, जैसे अभी हमने यहाँ पे ऊपर करा. एंड जो आपका कंपोनेंट है वो क्या है? नेशनल इनकम इंक्लूड्स ऑफ कंजम्पशन एंड सेविंग्स. सो कैन आई से दैट y is equals to as, which is equals to c plus s, that means consumption and savings. So these are actually the aggregates of the components of aggregate supply, right? So basic है, आपको रटने की जरूरत नहीं है. व्हाट यू नीड टू डू इज यू नीड टू एक्चुअली अंडरस्टैंड द कंसेप्ट, और जब आपको समझ आ जाएगा ना, आपको खुद ही एग्रीगेट जो है या कंपोनेंट्स है इस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक में वो आपको समझ आ जाएंगे, राइट? नाउ इस टॉपिक में देयर इज वन मेजर थिंग जिसमें मेजरली कंफ्यूजन होता है amongst the student, and that is average propensity to consume, marginal propensity to save, and or marginal propensity to consume, average propensity to save, APS, APC, MPS, MPC. ये दो हैं वो बहुत ही कंफ्यूजन वाली चीजें हैं, राइट? सो ये देखते हैं ये एक्चुअली है क्या, राइट? अब मैंने आपको बताया प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम, ओके? प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम मैंने आपको बताया, ओके? नाउ propensity to consume actually है क्या? This is nothing, it is just a consumption function, है ना? अब possibly आपको consumption function पता हो सकता है, लेकिन आपको question में आ गया, okay, explain propensity to consume. अभी हमें propensity to consume नहीं पता, right? Now लेकिन अगर आपको कंजम्पशन फंक्शन पता है, सो यू ऑलवेज बी श्योर कि AKA also known as क्या होता है, राइट? सो कंजम्पशन फंक्शन इज also known as propensity to consume. Now अब इस propensity to consume में there are two types. एक तो आपकी average propensity to consume हो गई which is denoted as APC, और एक हो गई आपकी marginal propensity to consume which is denoted as MPC. ओके, बट एक्चुअली ये प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम है क्या? एक्चुअली ये कंजम्पशन फंक्शन है क्या, राइट? दैट इज अ मेजर थिंग. सो कंजम्पशन फंक्शन, ध्यान दो, एज द नेम रिप्रेजेंट्स, राइट? क्या रिप्रेजेंट होता है? दैट इट इज द it is something which we do or which we spend on goods and services, right? अब हम goods and services पे spend कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? कंजम्पशन हो रहा है, बट हम goods and services पे किस कहाँ से पैसे ला रहे हैं spend करने के लिए? We are using some part of our income, right? So we are using some part of our income. So जो part of our income we spend on the purchase of goods and services, वो क्या होता है आपका, वो आपका कहलाता है consumption function. And ये जो आपका consumption function है, it actually shows the functional relationship between consumption and national income. अब of course सी बात है कि consumption जब आप कर रहे हो, आपका कोई सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ इनकम है, आप उसमें से कंज्यूम कर रहे हो, राइट? सो एक पर्टिकुलर पार्ट ऑफ इनकम जो आप कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं, किस चीज पर, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज का परचेज कर रहे हो, जो भी कर रहे हो, राइट? सो दैट इज व्हाट कंजम्पशन फंक्शन इज ऑल अबाउट. सो इट रेफर्स टू व्हाट? इट रेफर्स टू एक्चुअली द functional relationship between consumption and between national income. Simple सी बात है. अगर इसमें आपको डिनोट करना है क्या आएगा, तो क्या है? C is equals to FY. Consumption is equal to functional relationship of national income, right? अब ये जो आपका कंजम्पशन फंक्शन है, ये क्या रिप्रेजेंट करता है? ये रिप्रेजेंट करता है कि भाई मैं अपनी इनकम का कितना पार्ट किस पर्टिकुलर गुड एंड कमोडिटी पर, गुड एंड सर्विसेज में कंज्यूम करना चाह रही हूँ. Simple. So what is consumption function? It actually represents the willingness of households जो वो spend करना चाह रहे हैं on the purchase of goods and services at any given level of income, right? During a given period of time. ओके एक इनकम का लेवल है, एक टाइम फ्रेम है, उस टाइम फ्रेम में वो मैं क्या अपना विलिंगनेस है लोगों का टू परचेज गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज, दैट इज व्हाट कंजम्पशन फंक्शन इज ऑल अबाउट, राइट? अब इस कंजम्पशन फंक्शन में आपकी दो चीजें होती हैं, जैसे मैंने बताया, एपीसी एंड एमपीसी. व्हाट इज एपीसी? एपीसी इज एवरेज प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम, राइट? सो एवरेज प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम क्या है आपका? टोटल कंजम्पशन अपॉन टोटल इनकम. सिंपल है. एवरेज प्रोपेंसिटी हम एवरेज कैसे निकालते हैं? एवरेज हमारा ऐसे निकालते हैं ना, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर हमें एवरेज स्पीड निकालनी है तो टोटल स्पीड अपॉन टोटल टाइम टेकन ऐसे निकालते हैं ना. एवरेज स्पीड क्या निकालते? टोटल डिस्टेंस अपॉन टोटल टाइम टेकन, राइट? सो ऐसे ही आपका एवरेज प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम क्या होगा? एपीसी, दैट इज टोटल कंजम्पशन अपॉन टोटल इनकम. सो एवरेज प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम इज इक्वल्स टू द रेशियो ऑफ टोटल कंजम्पशन टू टोटल इनकम. सिंपल सी बात है कि टोटल इनकम में से हमें कितना स्पेंड करना चाहती हूँ, दैट इज माई एवरेज प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम, राइट? कितना मुझे कंजम्पशन के लिए रखना है, दैट इज माई एवरेज प्रोपेंसिटी टू कंज्यूम. Okay, so total consumption upon total income, that is the formula of average propensity to consume. Now, second जो इसका part है वो है marginal propensity to consume, which is known as MPC. Okay, marginal propensity to consume, which is known as MPC. अभी marginal में एक चीज याद रखनी है, that we always discuss about change, right? Marginal propensity क्या? We always take into consideration the change. Okay, so marginal propensity to consume, MPC is equals to change in consumption upon change in income. जैसे मेरा income change हो रहा है उस हिसाब से मेरा जब consumption change हो रहा है, that is what marginal propensity to consume is all about. That change in consumption with respect to change in income, that is known as marginal propensity to consume. Now we have to be sure कि marginal में we always keep in mind the change. Marginal है तो एक word आप याद रखो कि change, which is represented by delta. Okay, now moving further to saving function. अभी saving function क्या है? saving function का मतलब है propensity to save. How are you saving? How much are you saving, right? So that is what, that is, अभी तो हमने consumption की बात कही, but क्या हम अपनी सारी income जो है वो consume कर देते हैं? The answer is no. We actually save too, right? For future needs, we actually save the income too, right? So what is saving function? Saving function is actually the propensity to save. अब ये भी आपकी दो तरीके की होती है, एक होता है आपका average propensity to save और एक होता है आपका marginal propensity to save, right? So what is saving function? मतलब आपका functional relationship है between the income and the savings. So saving function refers to the functional relationship between savings and national income. अब आप ये सोच रहे होंगे कि मैम बार बार आप national income क्यों बोल रहे हो, right? आप हम तो individual की बात करें, but we have to be, you know, we have to be quite you have to keep this thing in mind that hum pad rahe hain macro, we're not studying micro. Macro mein we always take economy as a whole, we always take aggregate demand, we always take aggregate supply, right? So इसीलिए हम individual income का या फिर normal income ना use करके we are using it as national income. So saving function is what it refers to, the functional relationship between savings and national income, जो हम denote किससे करते हैं, S is equals to FY, where S is savings, Y is national income, and F is the functional relationship. Okay. Again, average propensity to save and marginal propensity to save, these are the two things which are there in saving function or propensity to save. Average propensity to save क्या है, वही जो मैंने आपको बताया था, total savings upon total income, right? The ratio of total savings upon total income, that means जितना भी income है उसका कितना part आप save कर रहे हो, right? Because we don't do everything in consumption, we do tend to save something for future needs, right? So always average propensity to save care, that is total consumption, total savings upon total income, that is APS is equals to S by Y. Okay. Again, marginal propensity to save क्या है, marginal में as I've told you हमेशा word आएगा change, which is represented by delta. Okay. जैसे जैसे income change हो रहा है उस हिसाब से उस with respect to that how savings are being changed, right? So that is what, that is marginal propensity to save, which is change in savings with respect to change in income. अगर income change हो रहा है, how savings का ratio is going up and down, right? अगर आपका इनकम इंक्रीज हुआ तो आप क्या है, the savings will get increased, right? इनकम कम हुआ तो savings will get less. So that is what MPS is all about, that is delta S upon delta Y, that means how much part of the income is increased, increased income is saved. Okay, so that is all about aggregate demand, aggregate supply, the basics of it. Abhi next session mein what we'll cover, we will actually cover the you know, the graphs of it, the important pointers of APS, APC, क्या होता है क्या नहीं होता, when increases, what decreases, ये सारी चीजें we'll study in the next session, because एक में continue करने से there would not be any point. Why? Because you would get, everything would get right, सब चीजें दिमाग में भूल जाते हैं. So अभी क्या है, we have covered the basic concept of it. In the next session we will be continuing this particular, we'll be following this particular session with the help of graphs and diagrams, which actually will help you in the answer writing in the exams, right? So with this, thank you so much guys for staying tuned. I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much. Stay safe, take care, bye-bye. Subscribe to Pratham Test Prep's channel if you haven't done already, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much.